Hi everyone, my name's Kelly and welcome back to my channel. This is day 5 in my 7 Days of Beauty and the Beast series, counting down to the film release starring Emma Watson. And it's also the 4th and final video in what is essentially a Beauty and the Beast retellings review quartet that I've been doing. And as a little bit of a change to the schedule, instead of telling you about another 3, I'm going to tell you about another 4 retellings because 2 of them are actually short stories and I didn't have that much to say about them, so I thought I would pad out the video. And also, unlike the other 3 review videos, there will be no ratings in this one because A, it's kind of hard to rate individual short stories in short story collections, and B, these 2 ones I actually read quite a long time ago, and although I'm in the middle of rereading them, it has been a while and I don't feel like I can give them an accurate rating just yet. So the ratings will have to wait, but I will give you as good an overview as I can as to what they're like and how I found them. So I'm going to talk about these 2 first, and I'm going to talk about them as a pair because these are by the same author. This is Beauty and this is Rose Daughter by McKinley. And for the longest time I actually thought that this was the older retelling and that this was her modern one, but it's actually the other way around. This one was written in 1997, or at least that's when it was published, whereas this one has a copyright for 1978, which blows my mind because this one feels just so much more accessible and modern and clean. I guess this one is more like a YA retelling than this one because this one doesn't have any sort of adult scenes or anything, but it's more, the writing is more dense and challenging. This one, as I said, is more accessible. It's a very traditional retelling, which I guess could make it a little bit predictable, but you could say that about a lot of the retellings that I've reviewed recently. This is probably one of the truest to the Walt Disney for me. And it had the same magic for me. This was, I think, my first ever Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I just remember loving it because I could get the Walt Disney magic plus because this just expands on it. This one has, again, 3 sisters and a father. They lose their fortune and have to move, and the father gets sort of taken in by this castle and picks a rose, and you know how it goes from there. I don't really have that much to say about this one other than how much I enjoyed it. And this one is in the first person, so you actually get to know the characters in this, including the sisters in this, more than in Rose Daughter, and also the Beast is more prominent in this. It's weird because you get to know every character better in this one, even though it is shorter, especially when you consider how many words are on each of these pages in Rose Daughter. This one is so hard to get through. It's so dense and cramped that my eyes just skipped over the words. This is also a traditional retelling. The family, after losing their fortune, moves to a place called Hope Cottage. I don't know where that came from. Rose Cottage. And in this world it's quite hard to grow roses, but the previous inhabitant of Rose Cottage was a witch, so Beauty, who already has a gift at growing flowers, finds herself growing roses. And I think the suggestion is, as I said, I'm rereading this one and I've forgotten a lot of it. I think the suggestion is that Beauty might have a little bit of witchcraft running through her veins. So the sisters in this, there's Beauty, who's the youngest, there is Jewel Tongue, who is quite sort of clever and quick-witted, and then there is Lionheart, who is sort of quite brave and masculine. In fact, she pretends to be a boy so that she can work at these neighbouring stables. And the daughters all use their respective talents to help their family to survive. Then one day, as you would expect, their father is returning from a business trip trying to recover his fortune. He gets lost, he gets taken in by this mysterious castle and looked after by its mysterious inhabitants. And in this one, I don't think his daughters have asked him to bring them any gifts back, but it follows a season or 2 in fact, where Beauty has been unable to grow any roses, and it's making her very sad because she sort of loves the roses. And so when he's at the castle, he decides to take away one of the roses for her, and that of course angers the Beast, who wants to keep him prisoner. But then when the father explains, no, it was just for my daughter, she's the dearest girl and she loves roses so much, they're her friends, the Beast becomes very interested in that and says, fine, you can go, but your daughter takes your place. The father goes home intending just to tell his daughters what has happened and why he has to go back. He doesn't intend to let Beauty take his place. But while he is at the cottage, he falls sick, and Beauty is convinced that it's because she hasn't returned to the cottage in his place yet. So before he even regains consciousness, she goes and takes his place. And honestly, that's where I am right now in the reread. All this is just preamble, and it's taken me so long to get through it. I saw an interview with McKinley where she said that between writing these two, she became a gardener and actually started growing roses. And you can really tell in Rose Daughter, her most recent one, because she uses it as a vehicle really to talk in quite some depth about gardening and growing roses and horticulture, and it's interesting to a point, and after that it's just self-indulgent, and I got very bored. The writing as well is self-indulgent. The sentences are long and dense and tangential, and you just get lost, as I feel the author does. So of the two of them, this one was easily the best. You also get to learn more about the Beast in this one, or at least you spend more time with him in this one than you do in this one, where you sort of see him like every evening when they have dinner together. And I think because this one is told in the first person, you just get to know the characters better. This is third person, it just feels a lot more distant, as does the fact that the writing holds you at a distance. So those are my two retellings by McKinley. Is he? Next up is the two short story retellings, and just from looking at these covers I was convinced, also by reputation, that the Bloody Chamber by Angela Carter would have the darkest Beauty and the Beast retelling, when in fact it was the other way around. The retelling in the Bloody Chamber is called The Courtship of Mr. Lion, and it's probably the most modern of all the retellings I've read, although it does it references chambermaids, but in this one, Belle's father his car breaks down outside the Beast's house, and he goes inside the house where he finds food and warmth. But he also uses the telephone to call up the insurance company, and he's very worried about paying for it. But when he explains to the insurance company where his car is and where he is, the insurance company says very knowingly, "Oh, don't you worry about the cost, we'll put it on your host's account, that is what's done." So it's this very sort of mysterious setup, and it appears that Mr. Lion makes a habit of taking in strays. And you don't meet Mr. Lion for a while, you don't meet the Beast for a while. The father is actually taken care of by a spaniel, and it's I certainly haven't read any retellings with a spaniel. This whole book is a collection of fairy tale and legend retellings, which I haven't read all of them, but I did enjoy The Courtship of Mr. Lion, and I find Angela Carter's writing style quite eccentric, I think, which appeals to me. But I have to say I probably preferred the retelling in A Wild Swan and Other Tales by Michael Cunningham. By the way, this is illustrated by Yuko Shimizu, and there's a stunning illustration for the Beauty and the Beast retelling in here. I just love this. There's this whole archway of roses and the Beast peeking at the end and a fallen rose down here. I love it so much. The retelling in this one is called Beasts, and it seems to suggest that Beauty is actually looking for a little bit of a bad boy, a little bit of a beast, and she's actually put off by the insipid considerations and politeness of the courtships she's seeing around her, and even the fact that during her time with the Beast he's very genteel. She seems to actually hold that slightly against him, although she does care for him. But one day, he realizes he cares for her so much that, he wants to let her go, and she's found it impossible to look past his appearance. So she goes home to her father, and she is still bored with the sort of romantic overtures being made to her, and eventually she decides to go back to the Beast, and she finds him dying. And the ending for this, like again, this is fairly traditional despite the psychology all the way through, but it's the ending of this, just like the final couple of sentences at the end, that changes the tone of the whole thing, the meaning behind the whole thing. And it's a little bit kind of be careful what you wish for. I really enjoyed this. I actually really enjoyed this whole collection. Unlike The Bloody Chamber, I have read this whole collection. I really enjoyed it. Michael Cunningham wrote The Hours, and he's a beautiful writer. So that's all I have to say about these four. Let me know if you plan on picking any of them up, and if you have already, what you thought of them in the comments down below. Sorry it wasn't a bit more in depth, but as I said, I've struggled to find the time to finish my rereads. Let me know if you enjoyed this video by giving it a thumbs up. Please do subscribe to see the next one, and also if you'd like to see other videos in the series, they will be linked down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!